So, I just got married, and I think there's something wrong with my mother-in-law. When John came home that night, I asked him to come up to the room before dinner so I could ask him a question. I don't think Colette knew I had seen her in my wedding dress and had resumed her afternoon with a glass of wine on the porch looking out at the forest surrounding the house or something. John looked tired, and I felt a little bad about bringing this up to him. It honestly made me feel like one of those housewives from the 60s. Another thing I'll need to fix because I'm definitely not that woman. I need to talk to you about your mother, I began, and he looked at me expectantly. I found her today wearing my wedding dress, my lipstick, and she's been stealing my hair, John, I finally blurted out. He stared at me for a moment, then just let out a colossal sigh. I'll talk to her. I'm sorry about this. She's normally very independent. I honestly wasn't expecting her to stay this long on her visit, he said. I did a bit of a double take. You mean she doesn't live here? We need to get our communication straight if this is going to work between us, I said. See, I'm not a pushover. He explained the scenario. His mother had her own apartment closer to town, but she'd been feeling lonely lately and wanted to spend more time with her son. He said she also loves the house and treats it kind of like a vacation home. I told him I didn't know how I felt about starting our new life together with his mother basically breathing down my spine and stealing my things, and he agreed. He was going to talk to her and ask her to go home as nicely as possible. He mentioned he has a special weekend planned for us, for just us. So that's given me a bit of something to look forward to. But she hasn't left yet. And things are getting worse. For the first few days, we lived separately, only talking to each other when John was around. But now she started getting confrontational. After my morning shower, I went to mine and John's room to find all my lingerie splayed out all over the bed. I was pissed. I marched downstairs and found her in the kitchen peeling potatoes for dinner. What were you doing in our room? I asked. I admit I wasn't really thinking. I was just fuming. Who actually does something like that? She looked at me like she just noticed I existed. It's your job to impress him, dear. You'll have to do better than that. Do you want me to order you something a little more risque? Or you could borrow some of mine if you want, she said. Ugh. My face must have turned bright red or something. I didn't even know what to say. What do you say to your mother-in-law when she offers to lend you her lingerie? I don't think that's entirely appropriate, I managed to spit out. I know my son, and if you want him to keep you around, you'll need to keep everything youthful. Just a word of advice. No need to take it to heart, she replied, then went back to her potatoes as if nothing had happened. I ran upstairs and replaced all my things, angry tears streaming down my face. I needed to get out of here, go see my best friend Charlotte. She would know what to do. We'd sit on a patio and share a bottle like old times and hash it out. But when I picked up my purse and ran out to my car, I realized I didn't have the keys. Where were my keys? I rushed back to the house, and there Colette was standing on the porch, a glass of wine in her hands, giving me the smuggest look ever. Have you lost something, dear? She drawled. Where are my keys? I demanded, but she simply turned away from me and walked back into the house. Oh my God. I turned the place upside down, but I couldn't find my car keys. I knew she'd taken them. I knew she wanted to sabotage me somehow. I went into her room, certain I would find them there. She didn't even seem to mind, didn't even come upstairs to watch me. And that's when I found it. It was a simple object, but enough to shatter my entire life. It was a single picture frame. Colette, in a gorgeous ivory lace wedding gown, standing beside John, in a sharp black tuxedo. The photo looked about 10 years old, maybe? But it was clear it was a wedding photo. Colette and John had been married? I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I was shaking, anxiety and anger threading through me like a dark, sinewy shadow. What did this mean? I was faced with two options. I could hide the photo and wait for John to get home to confront him, or I could confront Colette now. But what if she did something crazy, like attacked me? I hovered over the possibilities for what felt like a decade. And ultimately, I decided to wait. I was sure there had to be an explanation. Maybe she got married and that photo was a weird mother-son thing, or maybe it was photoshopped, or I was driving myself crazy. John didn't come home that night. I paced the upstairs, drinking a bottle of wine while I waited, terrified to go downstairs and see Colette smiling smugly at me. I finally fell asleep, clutching the photo to my chest. When I woke up, it was the middle of the night, and something felt wrong. I opened my eyes to find Colette standing right above me. Her hands clenched together, tears streaming down her face, dragging her mascara all over her cheeks. She was wearing my wedding dress again, but it looked like she'd spilled red wine all over it, staining the lace a deep crimson. She was whispering to herself over and over again, not even aware I was awake. "You need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave." I sat up, trying to figure out how I was going to get away, and she wailed loudly this time, "You need to leave!" She reached down and grabbed a large ceramic vase and hit me over the head with it. Everything went black. I just woke up an hour ago in my bed. The door's locked from the outside. I looked in the mirror and there's dried blood all around my head and in my hair. I grabbed for my phone just as John came into the room. "Hi, sweetheart, how are you feeling?" he asked, as though I had an accident rather than been bludgeoned by his psychotic mother. I stood up, getting in his face. "Your mother hit me over the head with a vase. How do you think I feel?" I snapped. He gave me this strange look, a pitying glance for a wounded dog. "Oh, Jane, I know you must have hit your head pretty hard. You fell down the stairs. It was completely an accident. My mother called me right away and I rushed home. But don't worry, you're going to be okay. But you need to rest for a little while." He kissed me on the head and guided me back to the bed. I was dumbfounded. How could he believe her? John, I don't know what that woman told you, but I didn't have an accident. She did it. She hit me." And then he pulled out his phone from his pocket, revealing security camera footage from inside the house. Sure enough, it showed me walking down the stairs alone and slipping on the top step, crashing down the stairwell and landing unconscious at the bottom. I looked up at him and he just smiled, a doctor's smile. "Here, take this, it'll make you feel better," he said, pulling out a small white pill and a glass of water from the nightstand. 1,000 thoughts flashed through my head. If I called the police, he had evidence that I'd simply fallen down the stairs. They would think I'm crazy. How did that video even happen? Was I going insane? After a moment, I took the pill and lay down, letting him pull the covers up to my chin and tucking me into bed. The effects of the medication made my body buzz, and I felt a wave of sleep hovering over me. He kissed me and then locked the door on his way out. I need to call Charlotte and get her to come and save me from this. Just after I sleep. I can't stay awake much longer. This pill is really strong. But I promise I'm going to find a way out. I can't let Colette get away with this.